Welcome to the Darkstream. Vox Day, voxday.blogspot.com, and of course, Dark Legion Comics. You know, I was going to talk about something related to science, and then I was going to talk about the fact that we are bringing Voxiversity back this week, and then I was going to talk about the upcoming Alt Hero campaign. But I realized that we need to take the time to talk about the stuff that we're doing. You know, we are pretty bad. I am pretty bad at doing things like letting people know what Arcaven and Dark Legion are up to. You know, about the most we can manage is an announcement on my personal blog. You know, we don't have the social media going. We don't really right now. The Castalia House blog is not really functional because of some WordPress issues, and we're not particularly good about sending out emails or doing any of that kind of stuff. And so, what I want to do is make sure that from time to time, not every time, but from time to time, that we point out that we are very active and that we are making progress on the stuff that we've been working together on, the stuff that you have made possible. And that's why I think that it's important to occasionally step back and point out these things. And what I'm talking about specifically is Dark Legion has recently achieved a number of important steps forward. First of all, we have a Dark Legion store set up. There's all of 2 print editions that are available there now: Chicago Typewriter and Rebel Dead Revenge #1. But what is interesting is that Chicago Typewriter was nominated for a Dragon Award for Best Graphic Novel, so that was exciting. And also, Will Callaghan's Gun Ghoul is currently the #1 bestseller in horror graphic novels. Now, obviously, Amazon is not considered a primary source for comic sales, and so that's why you don't necessarily see the comic industry being particularly impressed by the fact that we are reliably producing Amazon category bestsellers. You know, and also you'll often see people sneer at the fact that we achieve as many category bestsellers as we do, because they say, oh, well, you know, there's lots of small categories and this, that, and the other thing. And what's interesting about it, though, is that, you know, this is not a minor category. If you look at the other bestsellers, The Walking Dead, Hellboy, Vampirella, these are also the best-selling horror comics. And so that doesn't mean that we are, you know, necessarily able to go toe-to-toe with them yet. But it does mean that we are able to be very competitive against them on a level playing field. And so, you know, this is encouraging, especially because, you know, this is just the first Will Callaghan comic that we're offering. We're going to be coming out with Gun Ghoul 2 a lot sooner than in digital than anyone's going to be expecting. We're already working on the print edition, which is going to be about 115 page graphic novel in the 10x7 format. And so, you know, these are major steps forward, because we're working on some larger projects and that we're going to be talking about soon. We may be transforming Dark Legion into a larger imprint, or we may be setting up a third imprint in partnership with two much larger partners. And so, I enjoy this comment. I heard the same "it doesn't matter" coming from the whatever blog several years ago. Yeah, it's always funny. We call our shot, we warn them that it's coming, then the process starts. They make fun of us because they don't see anything happening. Then the process starts, and they either ignore us or they make fun of us because we haven't instantly replaced Marvel overnight, which could never happen anyhow. And it's like everything else. Frankly, it's kind of like immigration. People ignore it as a problem until it reaches the point that there's frankly nothing you can do about it. Until it's a big deal. And so, we are going to we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. A lot of people don't realize this, but we only did the Alt Hero campaign. We got into this back in October. That's when we first started even working on this stuff. We didn't get our first comic out until January. It's now August, and we've already got 19 comics released, and we are going to be we're going to be continuing to do this. So now this is what's interesting to me. Check this out. Now this is a pretty major category on Amazon. It's the mystery, thriller, and suspense graphic novel category. It's got everything from Batman to Neil Gaiman to Ms. Marvel, etc., etc. And if you look at this, check this out. This is just yesterday. Dark Legion's Gun Ghoul is number 2. Alt Hero, the new Alt Hero number 3 is number 3. Frank Miller's Batman is number 4. Alt Hero number 2 is number 5. Alt Hero number 1 is 6. And Quantum Mortis is number 10. So that's 5 of the top 10. And all 3 of the top new releases are from either Archaven or Dark Legion. Now here's the thing. We've only got 19 comics out. We haven't even begun to send to start pushing our stuff to the comic stores. We haven't even begun any of our serious marketing campaigns. And so okay, here, you guys, if you're gonna try to change the subject, I'm just gonna kick you off. So all of the all of you stupid pagans who are all butthurt and still whining about the video from 3 days ago, just go away or wait until the next time the topic comes up. It's not difficult. So anyhow, I don't think that Marvel and DC are too concerned about us yet. They're definitely aware of it. It was interesting, if you look at the comments that were made by 2 senior executives from DC about a week ago, maybe it was 10 days ago, they talked about how these new publishers, these new creators are coming up and hitting the ground running. And it's very clear that they were talking about us, they were talking about Ethan, and they were probably talking about a few other independent comics that I'm not necessarily familiar with. But it's very clear that they see that we are not bumbling and stumbling around. We are coming out very, very quickly with high quality stuff, and our stuff is improving rapidly. I think it was kind of funny because I wasn't unhappy at all with the artwork from with the artwork from the original Alt Hero campaign. I thought it was pretty good. Um, and I quite like the stuff that Cliff is still doing now. But what was kind of interesting and what threw me for a bit of a loop was how much better the artwork is for the campaign that we're doing next. And I'm not going to show it to you yet. I'm going to show it to you when we actually launch the campaign. But this is some of the art that we're going to be showing you in the campaign is, I would say, probably better than any of the art that you've seen yet from us. And some of the stuff that I'm going to show you one or two things here. I'll show you a couple of the things that we're going to be doing. This is going to be one of the rewards on the campaign. You can see that's the Alt Hero Q logo, and we've got a couple other shirts that we're doing, and let me show you one more. I think that you'll find this one to be amusing, especially because, as you know, the legend Chuck Dixon is writing the script, and so this should be make sense in context. So these are some of the unique rewards that we're going to be offering in addition to the digital comics. People have said, correctly or not, that the very best value in comics right now was being a digital backer of Alt Hero, because for $15 you ended up getting 24 digital editions. So we did, we didn't realize it was going to be that successful, or we probably would have bumped up the price a little bit. So we'll probably put it up to around 25 for the full digital set this time. But no, see, this is kind of funny. If some Marvel DC creators like Frank Miller or McFarlane approached you, would you entertain them doing contract work for you at some point? Certainly. I mean, anyone who is good, anyone who is both good and successful is of interest to us. We want to work with the best. Now, what we believe to be the best is not necessarily synonymous with what the industry believes to be the best. I mean, I very much doubt that Neil Gaiman is ever going to want to come to work with us. And like I said, I think that as a novelist, he's a bit overrated. But, he's one of the best comics writers out there. And, of course we'd want to work with him. Someone like Alan Moore would be very, very interested. We'd be very interested to work with him. I think I mentioned in an interview with Bounding Into Comics that during his Jerusalem, trying to do a graphic version of his Jerusalem would be a fascinating challenge. Here's a not very bright statement. Q is going to be dated. No, it's not. That's like saying Hitler is dated and Nazis are dated. So obviously comic books that deal with Hitler and the Nazis are dated and no one wants to read them. I mean, honestly, you need to really think through the consequences of what you're saying. Chuck Dixon does not tell bad dated stories. We are not going to, I guarantee you that what we are doing with the Q theme is not something that you are necessarily going to anticipate. Okay? We're just using that as the thematic starting point. Okay? We're not doing a graphic novel version of the Q releases and blinds. That wouldn't be interesting. But if you just look at the concept of Q, if you just look at the concept of what it represents, there's a fascinating story there. There's not just one fascinating story. There's a whole fascinating series of stories. And so, see, you can tell this guy's a gamma. He's doubling down. Hitler and the Nazis had an effect on society that cannot even be measured. Okay, first of all, everything can be quantified and measured. So that's a silly statement in the first place. Secondly, you're missing the point. It's not, you're totally focusing on, the question of Q and identity. Okay, we're talking about massive conspiracies. We're talking about massive criminality. Okay, we're talking about a lot of stuff, a lot of very interesting, fascinating stuff going on the foreign policy side. And you think Chuck Dixon can't come up with a story related to that is not going to be dated? I mean, come on. The thing is that it's a starting point, and it's going to be excellent. Okay, I mean, I'm not, you know me, I'm not a sales guy. I'm not, I'm not even good about like tweeting out the fact that we have a new comic or that it's #1 or whatever. All right, but I'm telling you that I read the 5 pages of the script that we've actually created, and I mean, it's good. I can tell you this right now. The movie studio that we're already talking to is probably going to want to like push towards that angle, even though we haven't developed it to the extent of the other alt hero stuff, because it's literally that exciting. And so, that's my prediction. Maybe you'll agree with me. Maybe you won't. But the point is that I do think that you're going to at least see that it's a relevant story, and it's one that people are going to be interested in. Let's see some questions here. Cartoons are important in other newspapers, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's really remarkable how butthurt some of these people are. Anyhow, comic books are just another form of artistic medium. They can't be dated. Only the stories, themes, art can be. That's probably true. I mean, I don't think that the superficial take on jumping on a current event is going to be dated. I think that's a perfectly relevant point. That's why if you notice, I didn't say that it was a dumb point. I said he didn't think through the consequences of that point. If we were just to do a cartoon that was, all about Q, yeah, that'll be totally dated in 6 months, and frankly, it'd be probably kind of boring to read now. That's why we're not going to do that. Let's see. The idea of a catch-up pack for 25 sounds good. What do you mean by catch-up pack? Do you mean like being able to subscribe in retrospect to the digital edition, the old digital editions? That's actually an interesting concept. I hadn't thought about that. Okay, now you're just being mean. Alt hero concept. Wotan, one-eyed, never do well, Norwegian LARP hero whose attempts to help the good guys provide comic relief. Here's the thing that's kind of funny about this, and this is part of why I'm just so merciless when it comes to the butthurt pagans, is that we are the only comics company that is doing a pagan right-wing comic. It's called Holmganger. It's written by a Swedish guy, and it deals directly with Swedish immigration, and it's a hero who draws upon some of the runic power of the Scandinavian gods. And so, you can whine about the fact that I'm a Christian all you like, but you're very, very stupid to do so, because I'm probably literally the only person, probably the only editor in the entire comics industry who is even remotely sympathetic to your plight. So if you want to attack me, if you want to undermine me, if you want to try to distract people on this arc stream, that's your call. But I suggest that you just learn to shut the hell up and wait and see what sort of aspects you can support. Gun is not a Christian comic. We didn't even create it. That's why it's a Dark Legion one. So, oh, I forgot. Yeah, we did also publish Loki's Child. That's true, which is a brilliantly insane book. And frankly, I don't think that a Christian could have written it, just because the perspective is so, intrinsically pagan, I would say. Let's see. Y'all gonna sell autographed copies of the graphic novels? Well, it depends on which ones. Not the ones that I write, but Chuck Dixon said he'd be willing to do that. Yeah, I should mention. Somebody says Holmganger sounds cool. I should mention that it is so out there that we're only going to be selling a print edition. We're selling print editions in both English and Swedish, but we will not be doing the digital editions because we have a feeling that Amazon would pull it as soon as they got the first complaint, which they would get rapidly. So anyhow, let's see here. Why did a Sigma, who by definition really dislikes Gammas Omegas, decide to come to work in the comic industry, which is more of those per leader than any other field? Business opportunity too good to ignore? Well, maybe you're not aware of the history, but I've had people pushing me to get into comics for, I guess it would be 3.5 years now. They've been saying, Marvel's terrible, DC is terrible, the SJWs are terrible, somebody needs to do something. And, as you know, I'm not big on the whole, somebody needs to do things. My attitude is if you think somebody needs to do something, do it yourself. But the reality is that there really wasn't anyone in a position to do anything. And so I came up with I looked at the comic situation, and it was much worse than I thought. You can follow this on the blog. If you look on the blog dating back a year ago, you can see that I'm starting to to learn about it and find out how bad it was. And it was much worse than I imagined, because of course I'm not a comics guy, so I didn't know how bad it was. And when I saw how bad it was, I thought, oh, good Lord, even if we're not any good, at least we can tell better stories and create better heroes in this. So that's how we got in. We got into it. I had an amateur artist come up with a couple sketches. I came up with a story. We launched the Kickstarter campaign thinking, okay, if people are willing to put $25,000 into this, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. And it wasn't a big deal. If you were there at the time, you may recall that we didn't make that big a deal of it. I think I was still on Periscope then. I did a little Periscope. There probably were not any more people watching that Periscope than are watching this right now. And I made the announcement at about 2 a.m. my time. I went to bed. I woke up the next day, and we'd already blown past the 25,000 goal. And that's when I realized, okay, people are really unhappy with Marvel and DC. And so maybe we should look into this and take this a little more seriously. And of course, you know, at that point, it just became a challenge. And, I looked at the industry, I looked at Diamond, I looked at everything, and then I came up with what is our solution to that. I'm a competitive guy. I like to win. You guys know that. I never cared about my blog traffic until John Scalzi's fans were, trying to claim that he was, smarter and more significant, whatever, because he got more traffic than I did. So I focused on building up my blog traffic, and I absolutely trashed him. He gets a tiny fraction of my blog traffic now. In terms of comics, I've told Ethan I don't care about comics. I don't know. I know a fair amount about comics now. I didn't know anything about comics then, but I am committed to Archaven and Dark Legion becoming the best comics imprints and producing the best comics because I want to win. It's that simple. Every time I step on the soccer field, I want to win. Even if we're playing against a much better team of, that has a couple ex-internationals and some ex-pros and we don't have a chance, I still want to win. And we're still going to play hard. If you look at Marvel Studios and Marvel and DC and Warner Brothers and stuff, it looks impossible. But I don't care. And if you look at what's happening, we are showing that we are able to be competitive even now, even though nobody knows us, even though we've only got a few thousand supporters. But we're going to do to them what we did to John Scalzi, and what we did to Tor, and what we did to the Hugo Awards. We are going to win. And it's going very, very well. InfoWars already sold out of their whole first order. They've already had to order more. It hasn't even been a month. And that's just our first retail outlet that isn't us. There's a good question here. In fact, it was something that I was concerned about. Has Ingram been tested? What makes you think they're more resistant to political correctness than a company like Amazon? Three things. First of all, they're a Tennessee-based private company. So they're not public. They're tightly held, so they're not very susceptible to the outside pressures. And most importantly, they have a long tradition of not interfering with content. They don't interfere with content. I asked them that question, in fact, when we were looking at picking up Milo's Dangerous, and the very intelligent and very substantive response from the guy that I was talking to there, the executive I was talking to, said, we publish, he said, at last count, 30-something editions of Mein Kampf. I don't think Milo's going to be a problem. And so, they publish so many books that are so totally offensive that, the idea that somebody's going to get, that they're going to allow anybody to influence them because they don't like a Confederate flag outfit on the cover, or because they don't like a gun on the cover, or whatever else the SJWs are in an uproar about, they're not going to respond to it. And in fact, I think that you'll see other reasons in the near future. I can't talk about it yet, but we continue to work very closely with them. So you can probably attract an army of faithful weebs if you bring some manga artists into the fold. turnaround is quicker on doujins also. I actually speak some Japanese, and I didn't understand that. So I know what a weeb is. I know what manga artists are. I have no idea what doujins are. Give me a break. I'm just learning about Western comics. The whole idea of getting into, I mean, based on my very, very limited experience of Japanese comics, which when I was there tended to involve Sailor Girl outfits and tentacles, I am not at all eager to get into anything like that. So anyhow, but I do very much appreciate the support. When I say that we've only got a few thousand supporters, I am also very cognizant and very appreciative of the fact that we have some of the strongest and most reliable supporters out there. I would much rather have our 2,200 supporters than have 100,000 Marvel fans, because I would rather have strong and reliable people at my back than a bunch of wishy-washy people who are going to scatter to the winds at the first sign of any negative peer pressure. So let's see. That reminds me, I heard an interview with a guy from id. It turns out that the company is Texan and full of gun nuts. Might be why Doom Eternal is poking fun at leftist talking points. Well, almost certainly. I've known the guys from id for 20, 30 years or so. Can I sell them door to door at comic book stores? I don't know how that would work. I mean, you can push them to comic book stores, but Ingram is we need to get them to sign up with Ingram and then order them from Ingram. That's the goal. So, does Marvel even have any fans outside of the moviegoers? Of course it does. I mean, they have their comics business and their licensing business, is hundreds of mil. I mean, I'd have to add it up, but they have 38% of the comic publishing business, which is about, just to keep it simple, we'll say 500 million. So if you do the math, they've got about a 175, $200 million comic publishing business. That's significant. And so, take orders. Yeah, I mean, that would, that's theoretically possible. I mean, I don't actually know how that would work. If you have an idea, come up with a concept and shoot me an email. Explain to me how it could work. When is Avalon 2 going to drop? Very soon. We just finished the coloring. We're about to send it off to the letterer now. So I would guess Avalon 2 digital next week. I don't know what's there's a problem with the Ingram computers on the print edition of Alt Hero 3. Amazon actually has it before us because when I put the ISBN number in and brought it up, nothing showed up for a while, and then finally it showed up on Saturday, and it's a book called Adam Bede by somebody. So there's obviously some problem in their system, and I can't do anything about it until tomorrow morning. So let's see here. How much penetration does Ingram have at the comic book stores? Right now, virtually none. So we're doing a 250 store mailing in the UK tomorrow. We're doing a 250 store mailing in the US the next week, and then we'll do more until we hit all 2,000 stores. So, when is the next Arts of Dark and Light series coming out? The extended edition of A Sea of Skulls will come out this December, assuming I can find some time to write it. How will Matteo raise Italian birthrights? I have no idea. And because Glenn Reynolds would be proud. I'm not sure about that. Um, I think Dr. Helen is a bigger fan of mine than Instapundit himself. But c'est la vie. Anyhow, appreciate your support. If you haven't checked out Gun Ghoul, it's on Kindle. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It's #1 in horror. And Will and I definitely appreciate your support. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the stream tomorrow. Have a good evening.